Time now for Focus. Today we head to Tunisia, where votes are being counted after the first post-revolution presidential election. But while the final step in the country's transition to democracy has been taken, there's still much progress to be made when it comes to graduate employment. Recent figures show that despite the 2011 revolution, 30% of Tunisia's graduates remain unemployed, the figure rising to 45% in some rural areas. Marine Cazalis and Patrick Lovett report.
They've been demonstrating since early November. Until they were made redundant, these young contract workers for Tunisia's civil service used to earn 60 euros a month.
We went 50 times to Tunis, met with thousands of employment ministers, both current and past officials. They say we're going to fix it, but we haven't seen them do anything about it yet.
There are people who still don't understand that there was a revolution in this country. Those who took to the streets were the poor, the hungry, the unemployed, graduates who studied hoping they would get a job and provide support for their parents, people like us who find their living conditions are even worse than those who never studied.
These demonstrators claim their diplomas are worth nothing.
Putting food on the table is harder than ever. Go to the countryside. There you'll find families with people who've got masters and who can't even get a job.
It's been 6 years since he graduated, but without a stable job, his priority is making ends meet.
Just look at that. These chicken wings for about €1 and the liver there, €4 a kilo. That's so expensive. Imagine what life is like for a young unemployed person who can't get married, who can't have kids, who can't build a house and settle down.
Despite a degree in computer science, Hassan still has to rely on his father.
My father works on construction sites. I'm 33 and I have to beg for money from him.
Hassan lives with his parents in a rural town. His mother shares his frustration of not finding a full-time job.
I have friends who for the past 12 years haven't done anything. I thought I should start my own project. God willing, I'll be helped in my project and the situation in Tunisia will improve. Banks and investors should have trust in our youth, give them a chance and provide funding. God willing, young people will then succeed.
Jobs, freedom, dignity. This was the slogan chosen by Tunisia's youth as they took part in the 2011 revolution. A yearning for change which could be turning into bitterness.
Now, for more on this, I'm joined now by Lotfi Saibi. He's the head of the 4D Leadership House Institute. Hello, thanks very much for being with us. Now, before we look at the current situation, I just wanted to ask just how much was unemployment, and graduate unemployment particularly, a factor in the 2011 revolution?
Hi, thanks for inviting me again. I think it all started with that lack of jobs, lack of opportunities. So in retrospect, in listening and watching these young men and women, I totally agree with them. The majority of them have not seen any changes since 2011. And so they find themselves listening to slogans, political slogans and speeches, yet they're still unemployed. There are no prospects for future. Everyone is talking about the new word is entrepreneurship, initiatives, yet the basis, the structure that is needed to launch that is missing. And so essentially, not much has changed since 2011.
But in our report, a former economy minister points out that unemployment has fallen, did fall under Ennado's rule. What's that due to, and isn't that an encouraging sign?
Well, you know, numbers are made so that you can change them any way you want to. The truth is, and the fact of the matter is, in addition to the about 700,000 people that are still looking for jobs, and that hasn't really changed much since 2011, there is another 60 to 80,000 every year that graduate universities. And so what the government has done, and it's no different under the Troika, under Nahda, they would sort of absorb 20 to 25,000 jobs unnecessarily just into the administration, just to put these people into work, into non-value added jobs, mostly administrative jobs that add nothing to the economy. And so today, with a new government, and I want to take this opportunity to thank all Tunisians for yesterday for the elections and the successful presidential first round elections, and even with Nida Tunis coming into now as a relative majority into the new parliament, and I was just listening to Mr. Slim Shekhar, who was himself a minister. Things are tough. I mean, no one has the magic wand. There is no short-term solutions. And the main issue is since 2011, we're soon going to be looking in the fourth government. So there are no short-term solutions, and there is no magic wand. And I don't expect nada, nide, to be any different, at least for the first 2 years, because the issues are long-term. They go way back to the 1970s and 80s. There are issues of investment. There are issues of now lack of security. There are issues of education. There are issues of a mindset, of the entrepreneurial mindset. What the governments have always done, going back to Bourguiba time, then Ben Ali, and then no different under Nahda in this transition period, they've been the job providers. And that's the wrong business model.
I'm sorry to interrupt.
If we want to get Tunisia...
I'm sorry to interrupt, but you
Yes.
say that you don't expect anything much to change with a new president, and particularly not for a couple of years. But are you encouraged at all by what the presidential candidates have said? Is there one in particular that you think will do more about youth unemployment and perhaps at least focus on what needs to be done in the short term?
Well, of course, I am encouraged, first of all, by the political transition that we have made, and consequently, there will be enough time now provided to the new government, 5 years. They will have no excuse. 5 years to work with opposing parties, and hopefully they will put hand in hand and come up with not political slogans, but effective programs that put people to work. But I have to warn, what Tunisia's economy needs today, more than political slogan, is a shock. It's shock therapy. Shock therapy going back to government institutions, to the administration, and as well as to the young people who are unemployed. This is a culture, and you can't fix a 60-year issue, a 60-year problem that's been developing and festering for 50 or 60 years in a year or two. No programs alone, no political speeches will fix this. There has to be structural issues, going back to investments, going back to what we call in economics organic investments from within, from the young Tunisian himself and herself who graduates school and he can't just sit at home waiting for a job to land on his head. He has to get off and go and create a job. The environment,
okay.
Now the government's job has to be create the environment for this young man and woman to succeed. And that environment is what has been missing. The security blanket has been missing. And so the entire business model of the entire country is wrong, and it's heading the wrong direction, and it needs a little bit of political courage, which is what has been missing. Political courage exactly is what is needed to get Tunisia to the right track.
I'm sorry to interrupt. We're running out of time. Thank you very much, though, for joining us for today's Focus segment.